Caitlin fever hits the fundraising circuit. FRONTLINERS look to harness Clark's STARPOWER. University of Iowa-turned-WNBA superstar Caitlin Clark is coming to town later this month, when Clark's Indiana Fever faces off against the Washington Mystics in their last game of the regular season. And at least two House lawmakers in tight reelection bids appear to be leaning on Clark's celebrity as a fundraising draw. Donors for Rep. Mariannette Miller-Meeks are Iowa. One of Clark's home state lawmakers can watch the game from a private box at Capital One Arena, according to an invitation obtained by PI. Miller-Meeks has long been one of Clark's top boosters in Congress, leading a congressional resolution earlier this year with the rest of the Iowa delegation to recognize Clark for breaking an NCAA scoring record and congratulating Clark from the House floor when she went first overall in this year's WNBA draft. Rep. Susie Lee D. Nev, who like Miller-Meeks is one of dozens of battleground district lawmakers whose race could decide control of the House next year, is also hosting a fundraiser at the game, per a list of upcoming events shared with PI. Tickets for either fundraiser will start at $1,000 for individuals. PAC tickets start at $2,000 for Lee's fundraiser and $1,000 for Miller-Meeks' fundraiser. Neither campaign responded to requests for comment. It's not uncommon for lawmakers to use sporting events or even concerts to hold fundraisers. Washington Nationals games are especially popular, according to invites seen by PI. As are football games, Miller-Meeks hosted a fundraising tailgate in Iowa City over the weekend. Hockey games. Lee scheduled a fundraiser last July when the Las Vegas Golden Knights were in town to play the Washington Capitals, or major tournaments like the U.S. Open, during which Rep. Grace Meng, D.N. Lai, scheduled a PAC trip in August. Fundraisers at WNBA games have typically been less common, but tickets for the Fever's first game against the Mystics earlier this year quickly sold out, underscoring the game's potential appeal to donors, which comes in the crucial final sprint before November's elections. Happy Monday and welcome to PI. On this day in 1925, an article published in the Norwalk Hour mentioned a new treat called Some Moors that was introduced and was reportedly enjoyed thoroughly by troop leaders at the Girl Scouts Camp Andre. Bonfires haven't been the same since. Send some more tips about lobbying or tips about s'mores. Caprisco at Politico.com. And be sure to follow me on X at CaitlinAprisco. A message from American Land Title Association. Title insurance protects homebuyers from facing their worst-case scenario by providing protection from fraud, forgery, and more. Eliminating title insurance would leave homebuyers without protection they need. Learn more. Leo is his PA case. In a rare interview with Financial Times' Alex Rogers, conservative kingmaker Leonard Leo outlined his plans for a billion-dollar push to crush liberal dominance across corporate America and in the country's news and entertainment sectors by way of Marble Freedom Trust. Leo's nonprofit group seeded in 2021 by an unheard of $1.6 billion donation by Electronics Mogul Barsaid. Expect us to increase support for organizations that call out companies and financial institutions that bend to the woke mind virus spread by regulators and NGOs, so that they have to pay a price for putting extreme left-wing ideology ahead of consumers, Leo told FT. Leo said his goal was to find very leveraged, impactful ways of reintroducing limited constitutional government and a civil society premised on freedom and personal responsibility and the virtues of Western civilization. The nonprofit is increasingly interested in launching campaigns against woke banks and China-friendly companies involved in everything from food production to autonomous vehicles in the U.S. and potentially Europe. Leo also intends to invest in a U.S. local media company in the next 12 months, although he has not decided which, and is building conservative coalitions through groups such as Teneo Network, a club with chapters across the country. Invasion of DHEAI low BWISTS. The artificial intelligence industry has gone on a lobbying binge in the past few years, deploying scores of hired influencers to help shape potential government action. The Associated Press' Dan Merica reports. and as the technology is rapidly adopted across a wide range of different sectors. Lawmakers are leaning on the lobbyists' expertise because think tanks, nonprofit groups, and academia are struggling to keep up with the minute-by-minute technological changes. Relying on PowerPoint slides and briefing papers, AI industry lobbyists are getting lots of face time with lawmakers and staffers, advising them on the ins and outs of the technology and successfully stymieing new regulations to deal with the industry. According to a study by Open Secrets, a watchdog that tracks money in politics, the number of organizations lobbying on AI spiked to 460 in 2023, an over 190% increase from 2022. The number of organizations grew slightly to 462 in 2024. The primary goal of most of these lobbyists is to convince Washington that the fears around AI are overblown and that the United States does not need to follow the European Union, which passed first-of-its-kind regulations earlier this year with the Artificial Intelligence Act. Congress has, so far, taken a light touch on AI. The fundraisers are basic. With Congress returned to town this week, comes the return of fly-ins looking to elevate a variety of priorities before lawmakers dash back to the campaign trail at the end of the month. The Truckload Carriers Association is bringing more than 80 of its members to D.C. beginning Wednesday. Attendees have more than 100 Hill meetings on the book, with members including Senator John Boozman, R.Arc, and Rep. Tim Burchett, R10, in addition to talks with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the Canadian Embassy. Topics of discussion will include truck parking shortages, as well as the electrification of the commercial trucking industry. The International Franchise Association is also hosting more than 330 franchisees, franchisors, and suppliers for its Advocacy Summit, which will focus on tax issues and joint employer regulations. IFA will hear from NRC Chair Steve Daines, Armont, Maryland GOP Senate candidate Larry Hogan, and Rep. Lloyd Smucker, RPA. The trade group will close out the summit with FranFest, during which Reps. Ashley Hinson, Iowa, and Morgan McGarvey, DCI, will be playing alongside School of Rock bands. Consumer Brands members nimumen on recycling push. Most of the products in the typical kitchen use plastics that are virtually impossible to recycle. The film that acts as a lid on Dole's Sunshine Fruit Bowls. The rings securing jars of McCormick dried herbs. The straws attached to Juicy Juice boxes. The bags that hold Cheez-Its and Cheerios. They're all destined for the dumpster. ProPublica's Lisa Song writes. The Consumer Brands Association, a trade group representing those brands, and hundreds more, is pressuring regulators to make plastic appear more environmentally friendly, a proposal experts say could worsen a crisis that is flooding the planet and our bodies with the toxic material. The association's board of directors includes officials from some of the world's richest companies, such as PepsiCo, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, Land O'Lakes, Keurig Dr Pepper, Hormel Foods Corporation, Molson Coors Beverage Company, Campbell Soup, Kellanova, Mondelez International, Conagra Brands, J.M. Smucker, and Clorox. Some of the company's own brands that project health, wellness, and sustainability. ProPublica contacted the 51 companies on the association's board of directors to ask if they agreed with the trade group's definition of recyclable. Most did not respond. None said they disagreed with the definition. 9 companies referred ProPublica back to the association. The makers of America's household brands are committed to creating a more circular economy, which is why the industry has set sustainability goals and invested in consumer education tools with detailed recycling instructions. Joseph Aquilina, the association's vice president and deputy general counsel, wrote in an email. APSO's Israel Pro BLAM. Disruptive London protests against the global advisory firm APCO have spilled over into the company's internal conversations, as employees in its booming Gulf offices are pressing managers over the American firm's dealings with an Israeli defense contractor. Per Semaphor's Kelsey Warner and Sarah Dedouch. APCO senior executives have pledged to share details with their staff, but a Friday afternoon all-hands call with Middle East offices to discuss the matter was canceled. One employee said APSO's response has been both not enough and too slow for staff, many of whom work on behalf of Gulf governments, and are worried about the repercussions to their business or have personal qualms about work in support of Israel's Gaza war. The internal friction is playing out with particular intensity in the firm's Gulf offices in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh, and Manama, and in London, where workers were concerned for their safety after the protest. Another Ballard expansion. Ballard Partners is adding another strategic partnership to its expanding global footprint, teaming up with South Korea's GR company in Seoul. The partnership is part of the Ballard Global Alliance, an international network that launched last month with